You have to think that it's life or death. You have to. Because, and it comes down to that sometimes, because what happens is, you know, in a regular season, if you don't run well at one race, you may not get an invite to the next race. So that's death. Your season's going to get cut short. So it's life or death. I have to beat you guys. I have to slay you because I need to keep moving forward and progressing forward.
Justin Gatlin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
What goes through the mind of the fastest man alive?
Oh, man. Everything very fast. It's a unique thing to be dubbed the fastest man on the planet, because what happens is anywhere you go, you know that you can beat anybody in that room, right? But also when you measure yourself up against other elite athletes, they still give you so much more respect. Like I can walk into a room with Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, and they'll look over and be like, that's the fast guy though. That's the guy who can get it done really quickly. So it's a badge to have, and you carry it with honor and pride.
Mm-hmm. But I can imagine that is not an easy accomplishment nor an easy road to get to. I'd love to hear about your career as an Olympian and how you fell into the sports. Probably didn't fall into the sports of track that you fell into, but your career has been astounding.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Where you want to start at? What you want to know?
Yeah, well, I want to know where you started. How does one become Justin Gatlin? How does one become the Olympian and the athlete that you have?
Doc, I actually stumbled into it.
Not what I was expecting.
You're right?
Yeah.
Well, what happened was the fact that at a young age, my parents, they allowed me to try everything, right? They was like, oh, you want to try swimming? You want to try baseball? You want to try football? I even played saxophone, piano, trumpet. They let me try everything.
How old?
I started probably doing everything at 6 all the way to about when I got to middle school, right? So by the time I got to middle school, that's when I found track on my own.
Wow.
I remember coming home with the jersey to show my parents, like, I made the track team. Now, mind you, I was very slow and lazy around the house. My nickname was Lounge Lizard. So when I came to that door with a big smile on my face, and I was like, I made the track team. They looked at each other, and then they laughed. They bust out laughing. You made the track team? No way. Fast forward, they came to my first meet, and they saw me run for the first time, and they saw a whole different mindset in me. They saw how serious I took it. They saw that I was hungry for it, and I wasn't backing down. I was brave in my attempt to go out there and really compete at a high level. And ever since then, they became my circle, my biggest fans. And as I grew to learn what track and field was, they grew too. Now, I came from a family that didn't play sports at all. So it wasn't like a legacy passed on like from my mom or my dad. It was, we were learning on the fly together.
And that's unusual, right?
It's very unusual.
You think that a parent's fitness level transfers in some regard over to their children.
Yeah, you would think so, but I discovered, and they allowed me just to wander and just discover who I was, what I wanted to be, and the love that they had was say, be you, do what you want to do, and if you really want to do it, we're gonna back you 100%. And I had the opportunity to take my parents around the world multiple times at different venues. They've been to every Olympics I've been to. They've been to every World Championships I've been to. I think I got to a point of the end of my career, they was like, all right, we're tired of traveling. So you can retire now if you'd like. So
I'm just looking at the Olympics here. So I just want to preface everyone so they understand who they're listening to. So basically, career accomplishments include, not limited to, numerous international titles, including an Olympic gold medal in 2004, 4 outdoor world championship gold medals, 2 indoor world championship gold medals, 2 world athletic relay golf gold medals?
Uh-huh.
Gold medals, and the winner of the Diamond League in the 100-meter for 3 years. So you have 9 gold medals,
I do.
9 silver medals,
Yes.
and 2 bronze medals.
I'm the most decorated male sprinter of all time. So
Just Matt, let that sink in. My producer is here.
and I'm the oldest that's been on the podium.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So there's so many questions that I have. We were talking a bit offline. Oftentimes, this podcast is around medicine. And yes, I love medicine. I love health and wellness. But I also really love extraordinary people. And you cannot be physically extraordinary without being have mental extraordinary capacity.
I appreciate that.
I mean, but it's true.
It is. It's 100%. It's 100% true. It's times where I'm mentally tuned in and I feel almost out of body. I'm like, oh, you're a tough SOB. I was like, yeah, I'm built for this. Because it becomes almost natural. It's almost like that fight or flight feeling that you have where it's like, you're going to fight for this. It's instinctual, or either you're going to run from it and you got to soup yourself up to fight for something. I've always fought for it. And that's the first thing I always lean towards.
Do you remember? So you started running. How old were you?
Probably, I started in middle school.
Okay.
I loved it. Didn't keep my grades up.
Okay.
So up enough to where it was up to my mom's standards. So she pulled me off the track team. And then when I really got focused and really took it serious was high school. I would say probably my freshman year. So I was like 14 years old.
At 14, you can't even drive.
No.
What is the mindset of a 14? And were you good? At 14, were you good?
I was good. I remember beating all the seniors and juniors in districts in the 100 with little training, because the first school I was at, I wasn't getting trained. It was just one of the football coaches that would come out there in his folding chair and his crossword puzzle, and he'd be like, all right, guys, go out there and just run around a little bit and exercise, and we'll be done for the day. So I went out there just competing. Gun goes off, I'm running like a bat out of hell. And I went out there and beat all these guys with no technique, no nothing. So when I moved to the second high school that I went to, I learned technique. I learned like how to be more precise with my angles and things like that. So it made me even a more formidable opponent. But the funny thing is, when I started running track in high school and got to that second high school, the coach was looking at numbers, because track and field, when you're looking at a team perspective, it's all about points. So if this kid over here does the throws, he can score 10 points for us. This guy in the hurdles can score 10 points for us. This guy who's a sprinter can score 10 points for us. So we're beating other teams. So I was more talented than the other sprinters. We had 8 sprinters all together. I could hurdle as well. So I became a hurdler because I can score points. So a lot of people didn't even know I could even sprint anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you started competing. So at 14, you were competing in track and field.
Yeah.
Was there a moment, again, you've had such a decorated career. What was the next moment where you said, you know what, this is going to be something that I'm going to do?
I always looked at my career in stages of like 1 to 2 years. You know, they always tell you should have a 5-year plan, or what are you going to be doing in 10 years? For me, I guess my mental capacity couldn't even think at that age, like, what am I doing in 5 years? What am I doing in 10 years? I don't know. But what I want to do today, or what I want to do this year, is I want to become state champion. So I want to be the fastest kid in the state. And then I want to be the fastest kid in the nation. And then I want to go to the next level.
And you were thinking that?
I was thinking that. That was always my goal. My goal was something that I know that if I worked hard at it, it's obtainable tomorrow, quote unquote. You know what I mean? That's what I'm worked on.
But that's unusual, right? There's a nature versus nurture. How much do you think is natural talent versus how much is just sheer will and tenacity?
I think all track athletes start off with nature, which is natural talent. And then over time, it's the ones who really want to get to that next level, that nurture steps in, that coach is teaching you. And whatever you retain is going to make you a better athlete. Now, what that coach teaches sometimes, it becomes uncomfortable, because now you got to change your form. Now you got to work harder. Now you got to push yourself more past the threshold of what your talent really is to get to that new level. A lot of athletes don't want to go that far. They think this is what got me here, is going to take me even further. And I learned at an early age, I was like, no, if I need a coach, I'm going to use a coach. If I don't need a coach, why are there coaches even exist then? You could do it on your own. So I relied on my coaches to be my gurus, to be my mentors, to take me to that next level. And then I also learned that these coaches have been around the block a while. You know what I mean? They could become my mentors as well and teach me and help me watch out for certain pitfalls. So then my mind and my nature and nurture started to become balanced. And then that's when I looked at sports at a different level. It wasn't anymore about winning championships. It was being obsessed with the process. I fell in love with the process of becoming fast.
I love that. When sprinting, why did you pursue a career in sprinting? Because you were doing other track and field events.
Yeah.
And then there was this carrot dangling of sprinting.
I remember having a conversation with a gold medalist decathlete named Brian Clay, and we were sitting there both getting worked on the massage table. We was at like World Championships in 2005. And I said, man, you know what? I think I could do the decathlon. He was like, for real? What do you think so? I was like, well, let's look back at my old numbers. I could hurdle very well. That's what got me to college, actually.
And that's jumping over, hurdling
over the obstacles. So it's 10 barriers, right? I said I could hurdle very well. That's what got me to college.
Where'd you go to college?
University of Tennessee.
Okay.
And I could long jump 24 feet, 10 inches. I can high jump 6 feet, 8 inches. And I'm pretty strong. I could throw a shot if need be. And the only thing that got in my way was the pole vault part, right? So, and I think over time I'll be competitive enough I can do it if I need to, right? So he's like, wow, the numbers, you probably go out there and break the world record in decathlon if you tried. I was like, oh, cool. But my love was sprinting.
Always.
I loved it because when you're in shape and you're at your best, you feel like a superhero. It's like you can call on the will of speed when you want to, and it's almost like you're just flowing. And as I was saying earlier, when you're at the start line of the Olympics and that gun goes off, it's almost like being in the Matrix. Everything around you slows down, but you're running like 27, 26 miles per hour on foot.
My husband doesn't even drive that fast. Wow. You know, when you got to college, you decided that you were going to focus on sprinting.
I did, yeah. Well, my coach decided that, actually. I had to beg the high school national meet promoter to allow me to sprint because I was known as a hurdler. And he said, all right, I'll let you sprint. Went through the whole rounds, prelims, semis, finals. I made it over to the finals. I get third in the nation. And I wasn't even supposed to be in the event. And I remember the coach who recruited me for Tennessee was there, recruiting other athletes. He leaned over the rail. He looked at me and says, I did not know you can sprint like that. And the moment I got to Tennessee, we had a private practice. He pulled me to the side, one of the other fast guys who were already there. He was a junior. And they told me, get in the blocks, do some starts. And then they would whisper to each other, do it again. So they knew they had something. So now we have a dynamic duo.
And you knew you had something.
I did, but I didn't know to what magnitude, right? So as a kid, you become naive to process, right? And you're kind of just thinking
You're 18 at the time, right?
18 at the time. I'm not thinking about where I can take this to. I'm thinking about anytime I give effort, I give all my effort.
Is that always still
to
this day?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's where your pride lies, in the effort that you do give. You know, it means a lot. And in track and field, and you can speak on other sports, there's always somebody watching you. And usually they're little eyes, meaning like smaller people, younger people. They're watching the effort that you give. And they may not be judging you, but they're going to be emulating you subconsciously. So if you're the one that's giving up or slowing down or sandbagging on the workouts, they're going to do the same thing. So now you're creating the next generation to be subpar when you could have gave your full effort and fought for it, you know? And then now they're going to be fighters. So they're going to carry your legacy. And I tell people all the time, I was like, well, what do you feel? How do you feel after you finish running? Like, what are you going to do? I was like, I'm going to just pour back into the next generation that comes behind me, because they're the one that's going to keep my fire going. They're the ones that are going to keep my name going. That's just like the tall tales or the legends that you hear about. You know, they speak on you with respect. And that's what I want to do.
So from the Olympics, World Championships, how long has your career span been?
20 years. 20 years.
How does someone have that much longevity?
I just love the process. The process kept going, and I just kept going with the process.
But I mean, that's a lot of physical burden.
It is.
You also travel. You've also, I mean, I'm sure not every moment of the journey was easy. I'm sure you've had challenges.
Absolutely.
I'd love to hear all about that. But how does someone maintain that kind of longevity in this sport?
I learned to micromanage my process. And micromanage has such a bad vibe around it, right? Mm-hmm. But think about if you're doing the same routine year in, year out. I'm training 9 to 5, literally. I'm going to practice at 9 a.m. I go train on the track. Then I go to one gym for about another 2 hours. Then I go to another gym for another 2 hours. By the time I finish, I'm doing therapy. It's 5 o'clock, right?
And how old were you when you started that process? So you went to college.
Went to college for 2 years
Okay.
For physically, track and field. And then I turned pro. So after my sophomore year, I turned pro. So I was able to go out there and run. So I was 19, 20 years old when I started professionally running. And all the way to the point where I was 39, I finished. Yeah, it was a long time. And it was parts where I had to grow as a man and grow as a human being and realize that, track and field wasn't my life, but it's what gave me life.
And especially starting so young.
Yeah.
I mean, 18 years old, you're just figuring, it probably takes another 2 decades to figure life out. To have that kind of responsibility at 18, now you're running professionally. Mm-hmm. What about the physical training in terms of, were you thinking about longevity? Because there is peak performance, which typically doesn't align with longevity. And what I mean by that is when you're operating at the highest capacity, mm-hmm. your body pays a price.
Yeah.
It's not, there's this kind of ramp up to, okay, you're in good shape. And then you hit peak performance and you're asking your body to do things that are extraordinarily difficult.
Absolutely.
At 18, how are you eating? How are you recovering? How are you thinking about all those things? Or are you just thinking, be fast?
I don't even want to tell you. I was horrible. I was an average 18-year-old.
18-year-old is probably eating.
I was eating junk, hamburgers, pizzas, hot dogs, anything I get my hand on that tasted good, right? And also the fact of I'm playing video games, so I'm staying up at 3 o'clock in the morning. So a lot of my nature came into effect instead of my nurture in those situations. But I learned, like I said, to micromanage my obsession, which was instead of thinking about the long days or a long season I have that's going to be day in, day out, year in, year out, I kind of focused on aspects of my craft. Like 1 year, I would just work on my start. That's what I would focus on. Another year, I'll work on my top end speed. And then I'll start sewing them together. As long as I kept my competitiveness, that fire inside of me, I was still able to kind of go out there and compete at a high level, but I wasn't being that same Justin each time, right? I was evolving. I was changing. I was still in that same environment, but I was growing. So it never stunted me. I loved the process throughout the whole time, even to the end.
And how could you take us through something like that where, when you say that you work on your start, would that be you wake up in the morning, you're thinking about the start, you're doing it for hours and hours and hours every day that you're just going to get this thing done? I mean, what is that? What is that even like?
So it started back in 2011, 2012, actually. And I moved to this coach named Dennis Mitchell. And I came back into the sport and I said, Coach, I want to get my start better. He said, you're going to have to get your start better. You're running against guys like Usain Bolt, Johan Blake, Tyson Gay. These guys are running 9.7s, 9.6s. So for you to get into the party, you're going to have to get out in front of these guys out the starting blocks. So we literally would work on my start for 2 hours straight.
Did you doubt yourself?
Nah. I've always felt like if there's a will, there's a way. It was one time I doubted myself. And I remember I got fifth at a race somewhere in Berlin. And I was like, this is not you. And I remember just sitting in the tub and the shower just running on me. And I was like, bro, this is not you, right? 2, this is not you getting fifth, and this is not you sitting in the tub with the water running on you and you soaking. Never happening again. And it never happened again. I never got to that point ever again because I made sure that I competed at a high level. And for me to compete at a high level, I had to check off a lot of boxes to make sure I stayed at that level.
And before you hear that gun go off, what is going through your head?
I'm about to tear these guys up.
Every time? Is it every time? Is it the same thing every time?
Yeah, I had to create a different persona, a whole different me. The Justin I'm talking right now, like I'm very casual, chill, but then Jay Gat is that monster. Jay Gat is that ferocious individual that says, you think that you're gonna take money out of my pocket, food off my table? You know what I'm saying? My family's trying to eat. I'm coming out here trying to win. This is what I train for each and every day for. You do too, but I train harder. And I'm stronger than you. I'm faster than you. And I go out there and I believe 100% in what I'm thinking. And it's like the moment I wake up that morning for that race, and usually when we're in Europe, the races are in the evening. So throughout that whole day, I'm pacing back and forth like a caged tiger. Like I'm just ready. I know what I'm here for. I'm not here for vacation and going to see the Leaning Tower of Pisa and Great Wall of China. I'm here to get the job done. I'm here to handle business. So that's the mentality I would go into. So once I would micromanage my time, like to the point where it's like, all right, coach, we got 2 minutes to get on this bus. All right, we get off this bus. All right, coach, we got 1 minute before I start warming up. I would make sure that I would allocate all my time to something that's going to prepare me for that moment. So when they call you into that call room, that's the last point before you go out into that track. And I want to be prepared. I don't want to go into that call room thinking like, man, I should have did one more stride out. Man, I should have did this. Nah, I'm ready. Let's go do this.
Did you ever have to go to a dark place to maintain that kind of motivation and focus?
Funny, I feel like the dark place was all around me. You know, me being away from the sport and then having to come back into the sport and then having to deal with the juggernaut like Usain Bolt. And the media was always like white hat, black hatting us because I was his rival, you know? Like by the time I came back, he was winning by far. No one wanted to challenge him. He was out there just having a great time, you know?
Is that why you came back into the sport?
I was so inspired. I saw him break the world record in 2008, and people in the sport were like so scared. Like a lot of sprinters like stopped sprinting and went into other events, or they just didn't compete at all anymore. You know, for me it was different. I looked up at that screen. I remember I was sitting in a bar and I looked up at that screen. And I was like, I want to race that guy. And that's what got me really inspired to come back into the sport more.
Thank you to Bond Charge for sponsoring this episode of the show. We live in a crazy environment, and I'm sure that you feel it, whether you're tired or you've got skin problems. I know that it happens to all of us, and that's one reason why I love Bond Charge. Bond Charge is a company, it's more of a holistic company that has anything and everything to meet your needs for your environment. For example, I love Bond Charge's red light therapy. You may have seen me use it in my IG stories, but they make an incredible device. I use the Red Light Max device. It's a massive panel. I also use the mini, and I've tried a lot of different devices. I sit in front of this and I'm telling you, I feel warm. It gives me red and near infrared light, which typically is in the early mornings at sunrise and or at sunset. Many of us are not outside during that time. It does a number of things for us, like helps with our circadian alignment, helps with our skin, helps me with sore muscles, and a whole host of other things. So if you are someone who feels like you suffer from low energy, maybe you're not recovering, I strongly recommend you add light to your health plan. And Bond Charge does a fantastic job at this. You can get yours at bondcharge.com/Dr. Lyon. That's bondcharge.com/Dr. Lyon, and you will get 15% off. I have a whole host of podcast episodes coming all about the science of light. really quickly, I'd like to take a moment to thank one of the sponsors, and that's Fatty 15. You've heard all about essential fatty acids, and Fatty 15 is a new fatty acid, the first one discovered in the last 90 years. And let me tell you, essential fatty acids are critical for health and wellness. We've all heard this, of course, but Fatty 15 is unique. So it's a carbon 15. And by the way, it is going to be helpful for cellular aging. The reality is we're all getting older, but there are ways and things that we can do to combat the destruction and impact our lifestyle has on our body and our brain and our mood. Fatty 15 is one of those supplements. Fatty 15 is amazing and it's extremely potent. And by the way, you will not be burping up Fatty 15 because it is tasteless and odorless, which also makes it amazing. Fatty 15 has great research behind it, which again, I think is extremely valuable. So a lot of different supplements on the market. I'm only bringing to you supplements that I love and use myself. Fatty 15 has helped me with energy. I'll let you know about aging next year, but Fatty 15 is an amazing product. I think that you're gonna love it. Go to fatty15.com/Dr. Lyon. That's fatty15.com/Dr. Lyon. And no surprise, you will get 15% off on your first 90-day subscription. Now, back to the episode. Take me through a little bit about where your career was at the time and how you decided to come back. I mean, you saw him, you were inspired by greatness. I will say that the best of the best individuals are always inspired by greatness. They are not afraid of it. They're not intimidated by it, but they're inspired by the greatness of others.
Yeah, you smell it. It's like it's a different energy. It's greatness, and when another person recognizes that greatness is like it's an energy you feel. So watching that, I was attracted to that energy, and it made me more relentless. Like I was like, I could come back into the sport and I can compete, but now it's like I come back to the sport and I have a goal. I want to stand shoulder to shoulder with this guy at the starting line, and I made that happen.
So take me to where you had been in your career when you decided to get back in the game. So you started racing professionally. Your first big win was what?
Before, when I came back into the game?
No.
Before?
But the initial part, because again, you've had a career, 2001, you won gold at the outdoor championships.
So my first part of my career was a fairy tale within itself.
Okay.
So I turned pro in 2003. I went to Indoor Worlds, and I won Indoor Worlds probably like 2 months after turning pro, right? So that's my first gold medal. 2004 is the Olympics. So I make the Olympic team. I win the gold medal there. 2005 is the World Championship year. I win not only one gold, but two golds, the 100 and the 200. Then 2006, I break the world record in the 100 meters. So it was constantly like I said, I had a list of things I wanted to do. I was checking off the boxes of what I wanted to do, what I wanted to achieve. And I was relentless in my attempts of doing so. And I never inundated myself with multiple goals at once, right? So if it was Olympic year, that's what we're focusing on. I'm not focusing on breaking the world record and getting the Olympic gold. I wanted to have laser focus on that moment, and respect the moment, which was, let's win this Olympic gold. And then we can mature ourselves to go out and break a world record.
And I mean, that's very insightful. And how old were you then? So 2006.
21,
wow.
I believe, yeah. So I was just legal enough to celebrate my win.
Isn't it crazy looking back?
It is.
At the change in the man that you've become. Did you have any challenges with that first leg of your career?
No, not really. I mean, one thing I saw other athletes, and greatness is observant, very observant. The people who possess greatness, they're aware of everything around them. Like Tom Brady, he understands every aspect of defense that he plays against. Usually you're thinking like, oh, he understands his offense. That's all he needs to understand. No, he understands the whole game. It's the same thing for me. I understand the whole game. I know each and every one of my competitors, what their attributes are, what their flaws are, how their season's going, how they're running, what their PRs are, So I know that I can be able to eliminate certain variables. So when you go out there and compete against them, I know exactly how I'm going to fare against them. I only get 9 seconds. I don't get 4 quarters. I don't get 2 halves. I don't get 90 minutes. I get 9 seconds to go out there and show the world what I'm made of, and have to go out there and beat 7 other of the elite world athletes. So I have to know all the variables that's in play.
Did you ever try to get into their head? Could you?
I mental warfare.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm getting at.
Mental warfare.
Because it's not, I can't imagine you guys are all hanging out together.
So mental warfare is way different in track and field than other sports. So I'll take you through what mental warfare looks like. So let's just say we're at the Olympic trials, right? And me and you are competing against each other. We're the top dogs. So what I'll do is I have a prelims, semis, and finals. So do you. We probably are not in any of the rounds together. We'll see each other at the finals. So what happens is I'll run my prelims. I'll try to conserve as much energy as possible, but still dominate that race. So what that look like is I'll get out hard, and then I'll command the race halfway through the race. And then as I'm running, I'll look around, make sure no one's beside me, and then I'll shut down. And I'll start to like trot across the line. That'll show my dominance. That's the mental warfare. So anybody that's watching in the warm-up area or at home, or your competitors getting ready to come onto the track too, they see how fast you are and you're holding back. So when you go into the semis, you do the same thing. If I gave 50% in the prelims, I'm giving you about 75% in the semis, right? So then I do the same thing. I get out hard, I dominate the race. I might have someone to be able to go against me like at 65 meters, and then I dominate them, and then I come across the line, and then I look at the time, I'm unimpressed, even though it's a fast time, and then I walk off the track, right? Mental warfare.
Is that an unspoken?
It is. It's
Okay.
very unspoken.
It's unspoken.
It's very unspoken.
So that's the way that you get into your competitor's head without directly walking out there.
Good days or bad days, and one of my competitors always told me, he was like, man, I hated going against you because I could never read you. You would always have a poker face on. If I was fast at that point in time, I would still have that same face even if I wasn't ready. You got to have a poker face, because we're all sitting in a room, like a room we're sitting now. So imagine 5 other individuals in this room that getting ready to go run and try to beat you. They're looking at you. They're eyeing you. They're trying to see if you're sweating too much, or if you're looking away, or if you're like intimidated. Like Usain will walk back and forth in the room as if like he's hosting a party. Hey, how you feeling? You good? How's everything going, huh? And he'll start trying to have like banter one of the other guys to take him out of his mindset. Now, Usain's mindset was to relax and have fun. That's where his superpower lied. Mine was to dial in and stay focused, stay hungry. So he never would approach me in that manner because he understood where I was. But that's how mental warfare in our sport is, just like that. You got to know who you are, and you got to play that game very, very well.
At 21 years old, you were kind of thinking about this, yeah?
Yeah.
21.
Yeah.
Then what happens after 2006?
So I tried out for football too.
No big deal.
Tried out for football, and it wasn't a fit for me. It wasn't my life. But before then, I was away from the sport because I had to serve a band. And within that band, it took me away for 4 years, right?
How did you deal with that mentally?
It was tough. And it came at a time when I was crossing that threshold from being a young boy into turning into a man, or a young man turning into a man. So at that age of 25, 26, 27, you know, that change, right? So it was a gift and a curse in a way because it allowed me to find myself. I had to slow down and realize who I was, and realize that track wasn't my life. Track gave me life, but track wasn't my only thing. You know, I helped contribute to track and make it successful as well. So it was a tough moment for me. I never thought suicide, but I questioned the worth of me, right? And with me questioning my worth, I started doing things that were definitely out of my character. I was drinking every day. I was partying every day. I was hanging out. I think when I hit rock bottom is when in Pensacola in the summertime, we party on the beach. There's a 3-mile bridge that connects the mainland to the beach. And when you party till about 2:00 in the morning on the beach. And then everyone drives home. Crazy, right? So.
Yeah, that's a really bad idea.
Right? So I remember it was about to be 2:00 in the morning. I'm leaving and my vision is blurry. And I'm driving in a Porsche Carrera. So it's already like terrible. And I hit a rock. I thought the rock was like a paper bag. I shouldn't even hit it in the first place. And then I remember there was a police officer who helped control traffic. He was like, "Hey man, you didn't see that rock?" And no, I know I reeked of alcohol.
Oh man.
And he gave me a pass. He let me go. He even questioned me, right? Because he knew who I was. He was like, "Just get home safe, man. You'll be all right. Get home safe." I started driving across that bridge and I felt like I was the only car on that bridge. And in that moment, I thought, if I lose control of this car and I flip into this water, this dark water, no one's gonna find me. I'm gonna be gone, you know? And in that moment, I started thinking not about myself, but the people who are my circle, who love me.
Your family.
My family, who would miss me, right? And who would go into deep depression. So that's what snapped me out of my depression, realizing that my actions would cause their depression. And I didn't want to bring that on them. So the moment I crossed that bridge, I got myself out of that and I started working to get better, working to come back, stop drinking, stop partying. And that's when I started going into the football realm.
And you weren't a fan?
No, I'm a fan and I respect football so much.
Meaning it wasn't for you?
It wasn't for me because I'm the kind of person like, I always, in track and field, whatever you put out is what you get, right? And there's a lot of politics that comes with football. You can work very hard and you still can lose with your team. You can have the best day of your career. You still can lose with your team. You can have the worst day and you can win with your team. So, and on top of that, you could be the best player in your position and your coach or the coaching staff can sit you for whatever reason they want to sit you. It didn't sit well with me because I felt like the best should always play. The best should always compete. And that was always been my ethos and ideology. So that's what I live for. And I respect what football players bring to the table and how hard they work and what their grind is. But I remember when I was at mini camp with Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I was going out for wide receiver. They gave me 10 plays to remember, right? Now, I'm looking at it. Physically, I can move like a wide receiver. I can catch. I can go in and out of routes. But no one taught me to read plays. So it looked like hieroglyphics. I'm looking at there like, okay, all right. I'm going to remember 5 of these plays, and then tomorrow I'm going to have 50% chance of being good, right? Hopefully that'll keep me in the threshold. So I went out there, and that's exactly what happened. 5 plays I did well, 5 other plays I didn't do well. So it was like, great job, or it was, what are you doing, Gatlin? You know? So then I was like, I'll remember the other 5 the next night, right? They put another 10 in front of us.
Oh, man.
So then I realized from there, I was like, all right. As I laid in bed and my roommate was sound asleep and it's like 2:00 in the morning, we got to get up at 6. I was like, do I stay in a sport where I have to learn everything over again? And the notion of the fact that I'm a runner isn't always welcomed in football.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because they always think that linear speed is all you can do. Like, and they always think like, oh, you're a sprinter, you're a runner. Can you even catch? You know, things like that. So I was like, do I prove them wrong, or do I go back to a sport where I once was a king? And that's what I worked towards.
And was it because you just love competing?
I do. I wish I could compete now.
I know. We're gonna find you something.
Compete now. Seriously.
we're gonna find you something. What is competing like with you? I know I'd have to ask your.
It's intertwined with my essence. It's part of me. Like I never thought I would be one of those kind of people. I always thought like, oh, you know, I'm not one of them obnoxious people who compete. Like if we're playing ping pong, I'm like, I'm beating you. But for whatever reason, like when it's time for me to compete, I just dial in. I lock in. Everything slows down around me, and I take it really serious. And that's something that once I retired, I miss. It's a part of me. And I got to find that again.
Do you feel like that is, I mean, is that cultivated, or is that a talent, or is that just what you're meant to do?
I think it's a part of me, but also winning is addictive.
Yeah.
You can see it in other things, gambling and everything else. People want to win. They love the feeling of winning. So I think for me, it was like doing a victory lap after winning a major race and staying there a whole extra hour, just signing autographs, taking pictures with people. I loved it because these people paid their hard-earned money to come out and watch me for a moment somewhere in another country. You know what I mean? And that's what really wanted me. I wanted to bring the best out of people and inspire them by showing them what I could do.
How long did you celebrate each win?
I always will have a thing with my agent or my coach, whoever was there with me. And before I went into the call room, I'll tell them, all right, if I win, you can go back to the hotel because I'm about to be here for like an hour. I'm going to be signing autographs. I'm going to be taking pictures, do a victory lap. So they know if I win, they just pack their stuff up and they go to the hotel. So I will stay. I will sign every autograph. I'll take every picture I can. And whoever wants to be next to me and be inspired, I'm there for it.
But after that hour, after that 2 hours, and you go back to the hotel room, are you focused on that win, or is it what's the next race?
Usually it's what's the next race. If I'm on the phone with my parents and I kind of debrief them on exactly how everything went, how the race unfolded, if they're not there. After I get off that phone call, I'm usually done with that race. I'm usually on to the next race. Now, if my coach has some words at dinner and be like, man, you did good, you did this and that, and you could do better in that part, and he ran this part well, and we got this strategy for the next part, next time, next race, right? But after that, it's over. I'll give you a perfect example. When I won my Olympic gold in 2004, I remember receiving it, get on the podium, had the wreath on my head, gold around my neck, and I came back to the Olympic Village, right? And I came back to my room, I looked at the medal, and I wrapped the ribbon around it, and I put it in the side pocket of my carry-on. And I kept on competing. The medal, the hardware didn't move me. It was living in the moment, making history.
What did that feel like?
Amazing.
I mean,
amazing. When you're standing at that line and you can, it's 8 other guys standing there and y'all almost shoulder to shoulder to the point where you can feel their body heat coming off of them. And when the announcer says, run us to your mark, the whole stadium gets quiet, 100,000 people. Shh. And then you hear, set. We lift our hips up, the gun goes off. And when the gun goes off, it's almost like a supernova exploding. Crowd goes crazy. Lights and everything are flashing. Literally the world stands still for Olympic 100 meters. We had LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, KD, all these basketball players run into the stadium in 2012 to watch the Olympic finals and then run out the stadium, right? So literally the world watches for this moment, and it's such a exhilarating moment, for real. It's addictive. It's like you want to go back to the Olympics again and again.
Gosh.
Yeah.
So you're at the starting block, you hear start, and then is your heart just pounding out of your chest? It
is.
Palms sweaty? Are you, I don't know, thinking about your child? I mean, what is going through your head aside from, I'm going to crush them?
There's one moment where you have self-reflection. It's when you're down in the blocks and then you get your feet set into the pedals. And then instead of looking up down the track, you look down at the track, right? So your head's looking down. You're right here looking at the track in front of you. In that moment right there, because all you can see. So then when all this is you can see, you start thinking. You start thinking like, man, I'm really at the Olympics, or man, this is crazy, or am I going to win this race? What do I have to do? And the moment that gun goes off, everything's instinctual after that. Your gun goes off and you're just running. You're thinking about executing your race pattern, going through your phases, remember your cues, and then you get to a point of the race where you get to your top end speed, and then you start to consciously start to compete against the other athletes around you.
And how fast? I mean, the whole thing is over in 10 seconds, 9 seconds,
9 seconds.
6.
Yeah.
But so all of these things are going through your head in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
How long does it take to get to the top end speed?
It usually takes you about maybe 7 seconds to get to top end speed.
And is that moment what separates the person who wins?
Yeah. It's a combination, because you got to think that we just ran 3 rounds to get to the finals, right? Or we just ran 2 rounds to get to the finals. That finals is the 3rd round. And you're tired. You know, you had a prelims the day before, but then now you had the semis where you have to run. Some athletes have to run almost close to their PR, and then maybe an hour later after that, you got to run the finals, which could change your life. So you got to run the fastest you ever ran in your life in that finals. So it's really mind blowing. It's actually all about attrition. You know what I mean? Like when you get to that finals, it's about who's in shape enough, who's battle tested, who's ready for that.
Who's battle tested.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you hit your top speed, and then what do you think? Because you beat Usain Bolt.
Yeah. In that race, when I beat Usain, in 2017, it was his last 100 meters, his last world championships. And I was working on something so different with my race strategy, but I was working on it in secret. Remember I told you earlier how you have to evolve.
Yeah.
Because if you don't evolve, I know exactly what you're going to do when you get out there. Each elite runner, if they're smart enough, they know exactly what that other athlete's attributes are, what they bring to the table. So I guarantee you, Usain and his coach says, oh, Justin Gatlin's a great starter. So we'll capitalize on being a great finisher, so we'll be able to beat him at the end of the races. That's what counts the most. So then I got injured at the beginning of 2017, and I had a hip flexor issue. So I couldn't get that fast start that I usually get. So then I worked on my top end speed. I worked on the secrecy with my coach. And so we didn't want no one to know, because if you give them a look, meaning like if they can see you do something like different than what you do, then now they can counter it. Now his coach can be like, watch out for Gatlin. He has top end speed right now.
But how is it, you mean at the time? Because how is it going to make a difference if they know kind of your strategy? So it's not just get out there and run as fast as you can. It's not that at all, right?
No.
And so people have to
It would
recognize
seem so, but no, it's not that.
It's much more methodical than someone else would understand who doesn't run that.
Yeah, there's so much that goes into it. It's methodical. It's very science based. Like we train, and your coach clocks you for every 10-meter segment. So you know if you're on world record pace. You know if you're running 9.7. You know if you're running 9.8. So it doesn't like, well, I'm gonna get on here, and when the gun goes off, I'm gonna see where I am. It's never like that.
It's not like that.
It's a fact of when you're ready and you're on point, you know what you can do, but are you going to do it? That's really what counts the most.
But what's going to separate? You mentioned being battle ready, being trained up, having got to a level of training where you're not thinking, you are executing. So when it comes to the moment of are you willing to do it versus are you not going to do it, is it a pain tolerance? What is it?
It's mind over matter. When you know that you're ready, that's what you mean?
Yeah, I mean, because there's a moment where you've done all this technical training, but is that technical training enough to become the most decorated runner ever? It's not.
No.
So there's something else there.
Yeah.
That has to kick in.
Your want,
but
your fortitude, your want to do it. You know, I train with athletes who kick my ass at practice, beat me. They should be running 9.8s, and then we'll get into a race and they run 10 seconds, because practice is a place where you can make mistakes and it's not costly. And you have multiple times because you have reps to do things over and over again, right? So it's a environment that you can control. But when you go out there onto the track, it's organized chaos. Well, that's what it seems to be, organized chaos, but it's not. It's actually a system and it's a rhythm to it. It's still ones and zeros, zeros and ones, whatever you want to call it, because I'm still racing against the same people. We're still running the same length. We're usually in the same shape we usually are day in, year out. So everything is relative to each other.
Don't you think everybody wants it? Everyone at that level. You're the top.
You want it.
Everybody wants
But
it.
there's athletes who are scared to go through the process of obtaining it.
You know, I saw on your Twitter, you said everything you want is on the other side of your fear.
Yes.
So what does that mean?
It's the fact that a lot of athletes doubt themselves when they get to that pinnacle, when they get to that point where their life could change by just giving a little more effort. They fear failure. But the crazy thing in the world is you're constantly failing because you fear it. You're constantly failing. So why don't you just omit that from your vocabulary and your mind and just say, hell, I'm just going to go do it. Just do it. And that's what I did. I got to a point where I was like, I'm just going to do it. Where is it going to take me? I'm going to win or I'm going to lose. That's it. I mean, if you look at it, it's always one winner, right? And 7 losers. That's the hard truth of track and field and sprinting.
And everything.
Exactly.
What do they say? If you're not first, you're last.
There you go. Ricky Bobby, baby.
Yeah. But at that moment, you don't have to pull from a dark place or and I say that because you are racing, you are putting yourself in an extreme situation that nobody, I mean, how many people get to even be in that moment? I don't know, 9 people a year?
Yeah.
9 people a year?
Yeah.
You're putting yourself in a moment where you have to kick in that gear. Everybody is trained. Everybody is capable. You're hoping everyone at that point is a professional. They're dialed in.
Yeah.
What's the difference between the one that can push to win the gold versus not? I mean, it's got to be more than a want. It's got to be, there has to be, I mean, maybe not, but in my mind, there has to be something like this is life or death, or this is.
Yeah, you have to think that way. You have to think that it's life or death. You have to. Because, and it comes down to that sometimes, because what happens is, you know, in a regular season, if you don't run well at one race, you may not get an invite to the next race. So that's death. Your season's gonna get cut short. So it's life or death. I have to beat you guys. I have to slay you because I need to keep moving forward and progressing forward. And there's also a sense of entitlement. I worked hard. I worked very hard to get to where I'm at. And I think that Usain or any of the elite athletes feel the same way. But it's those athletes who don't want to cross that threshold because they're not entitled. They feel like they're not entitled to that victory. They think that I'm just happy to be here and I hope that everything works out the way I desire to work out. You can't hope in those situations. You have to go and take it. And when before I retired, someone said, well, who's the next sprinter that's going to come behind you? I said, I don't know. Whoever takes it from me. Because in the sprinting world, that torch that is given to the next elite sprinter is taken. It's never given. It's never blessed to somebody. You have to earn it. You have to take it. I took it from Maurice Green, and then it had to be taken from me. You know, so it's a sense of entitlement that comes with that hard work, that dedication, that discipline, that yearn, that hunger, I am the fastest. Ain't nobody out there faster than me. And if you are, let's line up and see if you can get it done.
Intense.
Yeah.
Intense. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Do you think that translates over to life?
It does. That's one thing I loved about track and field. It's life. It's life. Sometimes people look and say, man, I want to be right up there where they're at. But there's a trajectory. You can watch where I started and how I got there. It's no secrecy. It's open. You know what I mean? Hard work, dedication, same thing with any other athlete. You can watch how they got there. That's one thing I like about sports. It kind of parallels to life. You got to work for it.
But the difference between those that become extraordinary and the legacy runners like yourself is that ability to reach in and pull something out.
Yeah. Well, you recognize that special moment that happened. Like I recognized in 2004 when I got into the blocks. The last thing I said is, here we go, God. I hope that I'm ready for this. I worked hard for this. I trained for this moment. I'm going to give it my all. And if I'm not, back to the drawing board. I got to work harder. It so happened I won that race. But then I remember that moment throughout the rest of my career. Give it my all. When the gun goes off, give it my all. And that was my secret recipe. Giving it my all got me to everything I got. My accolades, my celebrations, my gold medals, my awards, because I gave it my all. There's a lot of people out there feel like, well, I don't have to give it my all. Or some people don't even know what their all is.
Probably
That's
most
deep.
people. Probably most
They
people.
don't know what their all is.
How do you think you know? How do you think you know if you're scratching the surface of your all? Because it's, I mean, I guess in running and sprinting, you're physically, you have to put it on the line, but there's, but how does someone know? Because it seems as if there's always something left in the tank, right?
As an elite sprinter, you always, in your mind, you always say there's always something left in the tank.
What
Even
about
when
our
you think that
mutual
you're
friend?
tapping that tank?
What about our mutual? We have a mutual best friend. Just getting started.
Yeah.
Oh, Justin, you won the Olympic gold. Just getting started.
Yep.
Ben Newman. Shout out,
Newman.
brother.
Shout out to Ben, man, for sure.
Just getting started.
Yep.
So when you are sprinting, you know that there's a place that is your all. Can you say that for sure though?
That I've reached my all.
That you've given it your all.
I never liked saying that until I retired.
Okay.
And then even when I retired, I was like, I don't believe that. You know what I mean? I tell myself I don't believe that.
It's true.
Yeah, because I always feel like there's more. There's more left in the tank. The funny thing is, and the irony of the situation with Ben, him saying that, when people would write me like, amazing, oh man, I always write, just getting started. And that's years ago because it always reminded me, don't settle. What are you settling for? Because you did a great job, you got a couple of congratulations. What are you settling for? You know you got more left in the tank. Find it. Tap into that tank. Go see where it is. Because sometimes you're driven by physical. 2015, I worked so hard. I doubled my workload. I worked so hard to reach a different level. And then
you knew that's what it was gonna take.
That's what it was going to take. In 2017, I upped my mental game.
How?
By understanding strategy, like as in a sense of like almost like mental warfare, having more clarity, looking at it from a bird's eye view, how I can be able to strategize better. One thing that athletes don't like to do, they become superstitious or they say, well, you know what, I don't want to do that. Maybe make my legs tired if I stand too long. Maybe, so they're so in this box and that's where athletes live. But then I realized, I was like, why am I putting myself in this box? I'm labeling myself in this box. I was like, I need to spread out mentally and start thinking about how to strategize better, how to be able to counter better. And I looked at track and field at that point in time as almost like a war game, how I'm going to strategize. What I do for like the last 17 years of my career was predictable now. I had to figure out how to pivot, how to be able to flank, how to be able to get around, surprise my enemies, and be able to catch them off guard. Because if I tried to meet them head on, it wasn't working for me. So I had to figure out a whole new strategy.
Thank you to Thesis for sponsoring this episode of the show. Thesis is the world's first customized nootropic company. I've mentioned this in the past. I only promote products that I use. These have been a game changer for me. Nootropics are nutrients found in nature or the human body. They enhance cognitive function. Who doesn't want more focus, more energy, or a better mood? I don't know one person who doesn't want more of those things. Many companies take a one-size-fits-all approach. What I love about Thesis, not only are their blends exceptional, but you can go to their website, which is takethesis.com. You'll take a quiz. They will then send you a starter kit with 4 different blend recommendations to try over the course of a month. This is personalized. Thesis also offers, are you ready for this? Free consultations with a wellness coach to optimize your experience and dial in on your favorite formulas. These products have absolutely been life-changing for me. These blends are blends you have never seen before. Go to takethesis.com/Dr. Lyon and you'll get 10% off your first box. Takethesis.com/Dr. Lyon. Take the quiz and you are on your way to more energy and more focus. All right. Do you want to know what I drink in the morning that is a little bit salty and gives me a huge pick-me-up? Well, I'm going to tell you. And that is Element, chocolate Element, that's LMNT, in my coffee. I brew a black cup of coffee with a shot of espresso, and then I put a scoop of collagen and a little bit of MCT oil in it, and 1/4 a packet of Element chocolate. Sometimes I use chocolate mint. I've also saved chocolate caramel. It's kind of this like chocolatey caramel. Amazing. So I get my caffeine, I get some collagen for, of course, hair, skin, and nails, and I get electrolytes in my coffee. Sodium, potassium, magnesium, all amazing. I have now created my own supercharged drink, which you can too. And by the way, this is a different way to take Element. That's a little packet of electrolytes. If you get headaches, maybe you get headaches with your caffeine because you dehydrate yourself, or maybe you get headaches because you sweat a lot while training, or maybe you just live in Texas where it's hot. And so you definitely sweat a lot. You definitely get headaches. And this is why I love to add electrolytes to what I'm drinking. And it can be coffee, it can be water. Lately, it's been coffee and it tastes amazing. You can get yours at Drink Element. That's drinklmnt.com. You'll get a free sample pack when you use the code Dr. Lyon. And by the way, if you don't like it, it's totally risk-free. You'll get your money back. No questions asked. I love this stuff. You will too. Back to the show. And when you're thinking about the strategy, it's not just about the strategy, right? I mean, so again, I don't know. I'm not a sprinter, or at least I used to be, but not very fast now. You're thinking about all of the tactical type things, but in your mind, were you cultivating not motivation, but were you cultivating mental durability? Were you cultivating things that were above and beyond strategy? I mean, you probably had to be so dialed in and so on top of any kind of internal dialogue. I'm just making assumptions here, but there's this humanness, this human animal that has to be tamed.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it was. It would be like a switch on and off almost. Or I would turn into, like you watch the transformation of the Hulk. That's exactly what it felt like. It was just like I transformed into like this animalistic version of myself that understood sprinting and running and mechanics, but I was so aggressive. Like I lived for the aggression of everything. I was about the fight.
I love that. I love that.
The fight, you know?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And it got to a point where, I had to realize like that individual Jay Gatt was seeping into my real life away from the track. I was becoming more aggressive, more snappy at home, you know what I mean? So I had to like, all right, dial it back, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I had to learn how to tame it. But that is what you're talking about, exactly what lived in me. And I had to like name it. I had to give it a personality. I had to tell people like, don't be offended, especially on race day. This is who I am. And some days when I came to practice, this is who I am. Like, this is what gets the job done for me.
How were you thinking about cultivating that? Were you reading?
Yeah.
Were you listening to speeches? How were you thinking about and taking action to facilitate that?
Reading.
What were you reading?
Sun Tzu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Art of War.
The Art of War. Yeah. I've read that like 3 times.
Yep, we have that.
Yeah.
I'm married to a warrior. So it's not very. There's a lot of similarities.
So I like when you said that. I never thought of myself as a sprinter. I always thought of myself as a warrior.
Yeah.
So that's how I looked at myself.
Yeah.
And there'd be times where I'd be like, all right, Justin, if a Marine can stay in the bush for 3 days with little water and no food and still get his mission done, you damn sure you can get your mission done for 9 seconds. And that's how I would look at it. Exactly how I would look at it. And that's what made me go out there and push harder. If that person can go out there and understand how to be able to get his job done through the toughest of times, I think that I can run on a rubberized track with spandex
Now that you
on.
put it that way.
I had to look at it like that because we as athletes, especially in the Olympic realm, we make the moment bigger than us.
Yes.
When we are the moment,
yes.
right?
Yes.
And I'm like, why are we doing this? Like, yes, of course, it's going to come every 4 years. We get it. But you earn that spot to line up. Like, you are a part of this moment now. Don't glorify just the Olympic finals. Like, glorify your presence of being at the Olympics and give it your all. Because there's so many times you come across that line, you be like, I didn't give it my all. That's a thought that a lot of these athletes have. Like, I could have ran faster. But why didn't you? Why didn't you tap that tank before when the gun went off?
That's got to be a hard internal conversation.
Oh, 100%. I had a race in 2015 where it was more physical than mental. And that's when I had to like start making that shift. Because
it was more physical than mental.
Exactly.
Because I'm looking at, so I've got 2 pages here of your career highlights. But here's the thing. Here's what
I tried to condense it for you when I sent the bio, though.
No. It's my team does a great job helping me. But what's not on here are the races that you lost.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I have all of them right here.
That's what I want to know. I want to know when you crossed that finish line and you didn't win.
Uh-huh.
What happened?
The most painful race that I had to run was 2015 World Championships Beijing. It was arguably probably the best season of my career when it came to effort running. I ran the most 9.7s by anybody.
So that's 100 meters. Wait, so 2015?
Mm-hmm.
So is that 200 meter or 100? You're talking about the 100 meter.
I ran both that year.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the 100 meter. I ran 9.7 seconds, 5 or 6 times in that season. Usually an athlete, even someone like you saying, they're going to run maybe once or twice. They're going to run maybe like at a one-off meet somewhere, and then they're running like at a finals. But I ran it 5 or 6 times within that season. My coach was like, bro, you have to slow down. Like because there's a rhythm. It felt good. Like once you understand the rhythm and your power output, you're just riding that rhythm. It's a beat, boom, 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 boom. And then when the gun goes off, I could just tap into that beat, boom, 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 and just go. But I slacked on the mental part. So when I got to the finals, before I even was able to get to the starting blocks, when I got to warm-up area, people were coming up to me and be like, you're in amazing shape. You're going to win this race. Now, mind you, Usain hasn't been beat in the world championship stage since he became a rival of Usain Bolt. So people were beside themselves waiting for this moment to happen. It was almost like landing on the moon. So people were like, oh, you're going to win today. You're going to win. And I haven't felt that same feeling of being the winner, like outright winner, since like 2005. This is 2015. So it was an eerie.
So it's 10 years later.
It was an eerie feeling, right? So I was like, man, this is crazy. And when you know that you're the winner and you really don't have to fight for it, like your mindset is different.
It's different.
It's so different.
It is.
And I went out there with the intent. The time I ran in the semis, the race before the finals, would have won the finals. I got into that finals. I was running stride for stride with Usain, and the finish line couldn't come any faster. I started stumbling to the finish line, trying to finish before him, because I thought I was just going to blow his doors off, right? And he's a competitor just like I'm a competitor. He rose to the occasion. We were striding stride for stride. And just like that, he ran 9.79. I ran 9.80. So 79 to 80.
Gosh.
Quicker than this, right? So a hundredth of a second. And I remember coming across that finish line, and then he went into his iconic pose, and he looked back at me. And the look on his face was like, bro, this was yours to win.
Oh, man.
And I remember I had to go through that whole, like it felt like a bad dream. I had to go through that whole gauntlet of media, had to do the post-race press conference. And I'm sitting here with you just like, yeah, he just won on the day and everything.
But
and
you
then,
knew that wasn't true.
Oh, man, I know it wasn't. I beat myself. And the way he looked at me is like, you beat yourself.
How come you didn't talk about it?
In the press conference?
Yeah.
I wasn't ready because I was ready to cry. Yeah. I was so emotional. By the time I got back into that car that was going to take me back to my hotel, I was on the phone with my mom and I just bawled and crying.
How many hours and weeks and years of training went into that? I mean, you could say it was the whole career, but for that race, how much time went into training for that?
Oh, man. So you're looking at almost like 9 months of training.
I mean, mostly every day.
Mostly every
talking
day.
Hours of training.
We only
this
would
your
have
job?
sometimes Sundays off. So we would train Saturdays, all the whole weekdays,
Hours, right? This is hours.
9 to 5, like a real work job, just for that one
9
moment.
months for that
Moment.
9-second moment.
Not even a moment, seconds, just for those seconds.
And you beat yourself.
I beat myself.
I would say he didn't even beat you.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you recover from that?
I know I'm better than that. So,
How long did it take you to get to that place?
The season, not 16, but 17. So 16,
So it took a year mentally
It did.
to recover from that moment in time.
it took a whole nother world championships, because world championships every 2 years, right? So 16 was the Olympics, and I still competed very well, right? Even with injury I had and everything like that.
Is that your hip injury? Was that a
I
hip
actually
injury?
fractured my ankle. I stepped in a hole while I was jogging, and
Are you like, I cannot believe this right now?
right, exactly. And I never broke anything before then, so I was like, "Oh, my foot's broke. It has to be broke."
When was this?
And the fall, November
2016?
2015, November of 2015, because we do our fall training
Okay.
going into the new season, into the new year, calendar year. So I was a bonehead. I didn't go get checked by a doctor.
Like all my patients? Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and my coach was a taskmaster. He was like, if it ain't broken,
Don't fix it.
then don't fix it. Now, mind you, my foot blew up to like the size of like a softball, right? My ankle.
So what happened to it? It was fractured. It wasn't.
I think I had a hairline fracture, but like tendons were obviously like
Okay.
real jacked up, because I was literally running on one foot, which caused compensation,
Right.
which made my hip flexor hurt.
I see.
2 years later, yeah.
So the race that you lost was 2015.
15. World championships.
Then you injured yourself. And it took you a year to mentally recover. You needed to win that world championship in 2017 to recover.
I think the injury kind of offset my mindset to get back, because after that race, I was like, all right, I got the blueprint. I know how to run 9.7s consistently. I just need to get my mind right. And so I started training the fall training like a madman, right? So I started going on my jogs and things like that, stepped in a hole, set me back. So
2017. What would you tell the people listening? You do a lot of good work for the world. I think that you are very servant oriented. What would you tell people that have a setback? Because the setbacks are ugly. I mean, they are.
they are.
They are ugly internally. There's a lot of information, a lot of people talk about motivation and all of this stuff out in the space, but, a failure that's caused by yourself is different than trying something, giving your best and failing.
Yeah.
The internal failure is, that's tough.
It is.
What advice would you give someone who is listening to this that has failed, and maybe it's because they've gotten in their own way, maybe it's because they didn't feel worthy of the opportunity or worthy of the medal or worthy of whatever? What would you tell them?
If they're in the right mindset that I think they are, they know that failure doesn't define who they are. It's not you. Every great story that we've known has had a setback, has had the hero of the story had some kind of failure, and he risen from that, or she's risen from that to show that she's better than what that setback was, and they've gone on to do better things. And we always love to emulate these stories. So for people who are listening in those situations, there's a blueprint right in front of you. That setback doesn't define you. It's testing you. That's what's happening right now. You're being tested. Is your bounce back going to be stronger than that failure? It should be, because you wouldn't be put in this situation unless you are ready for it. And you're ready for it. So bounce back, get your mind right, get everything that you need in place, and show the world that you're ready, and show yourself that you're ready for a comeback.
I love that. Do you put things in a structure for yourself? So you read a lot. You read Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Did you have other strategies where maybe you meditated, maybe you prayed a lot? Were there certain strategies that you put into place to get your mind back to where it needed to be?
I meditated with the help of my dad. He's definitely into that.
And you're still very close with your parents.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And where do they live? Are they in Florida?
They're in Florida.
Okay.
Yeah. I just would take myself into situations to make me stronger from my situation. So like, I would think of myself being in prison. I would not allow myself, when I go to meets, I would not allow myself to come out the room only to eat. And while I'm in my room, I'm doing my push-ups and my sit-ups constantly, make myself stronger, make myself hungry. So I always will have a mindset to take myself somewhere and to put myself in a position that other people would get strong from. And it's from watching movies and documentaries where, it kind of tells those athletes or whoever those individuals are within that storyline, how did they become strong? Because they had the discipline for it. I could easily just come into my hotel room and look around like, oh, this is amazing. Look at this suite. And just lay across the bed and get on social media and just say, oh, I'm here for my race, or go out and hang out and go sightsee and things like that. I wasn't built for that.
Champions don't do that.
No, we don't do that.
No. Not distracted by the luxury.
Yeah. I tell young athletes all the time, I was like, if you're gonna drink, how are you going to drink? Are you gonna drink your sorrows away, or are you gonna drink from celebrating your victories?
How about you just don't drink at all?
You don't drink at all.
How about you stay dialed in and don't
Right?
drink at all? Justin's like, no, not exactly what I was hoping for. But, I think I'm curious as to what your thoughts are. Many athletes face setbacks throughout their career. Some come back, some don't. Do you think there is a defining character trait that allows someone to push through versus not?
Yes.
That was a fast answer. That was a fast yes. What is it?
That's because I've been in a sport longer than I should have been. Usually a sprinter's lifespan is 2 cycles, which is like 8 years.
That's what I thought. I thought it was 8 years.
2 Olympics, just
Yeah.
8 years. I watch athletes come and go. I watch athletes fall, and they couldn't recover because of they allowed whatever the media or other people around them, what they thought of them, they allowed that to define them. And usually in them situations, you don't even think about what defines you until you are put in that kind of situation.
Tell me more.
I know I'm fast. I know I'm strong. I know that I'm built to go out there and I'm God-given talent. So anything that I've been through in my life didn't define who I was. That's not me. And I think it gave me such a great opportunity to show the world that's not me. All that stuff that you feel that's written about me, or the haters and things like that, or the nasty articles, that's not who I am. But I'm going to show you who I am. I'm going to come back into the sport. I'm going to run hard. I'm going to stay focused. I'm going to stay dialed in. And I'm going to constantly win. And whenever you turn that TV on, you're going to keep on seeing me. And that's what made me who I am. It naturally came to me. Now, I have mentors and coaches along the way, because you're a young person. And traumatic situations are just that. It's traumatic, right? It hurts you for the moment. But how you deal with it is how you really are going to evolve. So I had coaches tell me, hey, that's not you, but we're going to get you where you need to get to. So realizing that there's people out there who really believed in who I was and could see me from a different perspective gave me that power to say, okay, cool. All right. I know this. They see who I am. I know who I am. That's confirmation for me. Let's get it done.
So would you say that having the right people in your corner is critical?
Absolutely.
And mitigating external negative input, not even, I was listening to one of your interviews where you said, God, you didn't even know when negative things were being said about you. You had no idea.
I had no idea. I didn't read about it. I didn't watch any videos or articles. I just was tuned into what I had to be tuned into.
And you think that's what separates those that can overcome a setback versus those that don't?
Absolutely.
And that's the ability to tune out any other noise.
Yeah.
Do you think that focusing on a competitor or competition is relevant in that way versus, because I know there's a tactical aspect of running, of you need to know what your competition is doing so you know to outmaneuver them. And isn't it really just about how you are doing? Or no, it's really who you are in relationship to your competitors.
It's about what you're doing. You know, you be obsessed with the process. Now, obviously, part of the process is going to understand your competitors, but you're not obsessed with your competitors.
Okay.
You find a lot of athletes from other sports, not just in track and field, who become obsessed with certain competitors, and it stunts their growth because they're so worried about that other competitor's success that they're already just giving themselves the silver medal because you have so much, I don't even want to say hate, but you have so much like attention given to that person who's not even focusing on you. You know, you giving yourself the silver medal. I've seen it happen so many times. Yeah.
So you have to really focus on becoming the best version of yourself. Know what competition is out there, but truly dialing into your own potential.
Yeah.
It probably allowed you to get creative with your comebacks and your training, didn't it?
It did.
Because you weren't so focused on what the standard of the other athlete was doing.
I felt like Rocky. I would train. I mean, and that's one thing I loved about my coach is like each year it was never the same kind of preparation. It always would change in some kind of variation. It would keep the core of what we had to do, but it would change in different variations. One time we're doing hills, another time we're doing sleds, but it's a fact of we're progressing, getting stronger, getting smarter, getting faster, and we're learning together as well.
And you have, so then 2017, that was when you beat Usain Bolt, right? Did you ever talk to him after that?
I did. So I beat him in 13 in a one-off in Rome. And after the press conference, it was already shocking to the world. But once again, I studied my opponents. So a week before it's time for me to go race Usain, right? And this is the first race I really had with him. So I was excited about this race, so excited. And
you were excited, not afraid. You were excited.
I was so excited. I was studying his races because his training partner beat him at the Olympic trials, right? And I watched his training partner's race strategy. How did he beat him? I broke it down. And I will watch it all the way till the day before it's time to go to race Usain. And then I implement.
You're like, hey, dude, seen lots of footage of you.
Exactly. I implemented that same strategy and I beat him in 2013.
Unbelievable.
And then we went to the press conference and mind you,
How did you get that? How do you get that footage? Just from being on TV?
Just being on TV, YouTube, just watching it over and over again. And I
hope your watch history is private.
Right? So he handled himself through the whole press conference and said, hey, it just wasn't my day, went out there, blah, blah, blah. But I remember us walking away from the press conference. I was behind him, and he was talking to his agent, and I can hear him. He says, that was embarrassing. It'll never happen again. And from that moment on, from 2013 on, he never raced me in a one-off race anywhere. The only time I ever raced him was at a World Championships finals or the Olympic finals. But in 2017, it was a little bit different. Right? Because obviously he was aware that I was.
How old was he? Do you know how old he was?
30.
And how old were you?
I was 37. 37, yeah. So it was different. But, and I used everything around me. Like I said, in that moment, I was strategizing. I had more clarity. Usain was worried about the young guy who was coming in named Christian Coleman, who was fast. I beat Christian Coleman in...
You weren't worried about him. You were just focused on Usain.
Well, I realized that when Usain came over and talked to me, he made comments about Christian. Like, who is this young guy? So then that let me know that you focus on him instead of focus on us. So then I'm going to use that to my advantage. And while he focused on him running stride for stride with Christian, I just slipped in on this side and just won the race from over here. So, and I laid out my whole strategy, my top end speed. I wasn't worrying about being a starter. At 50 meters, I was in 5th place. From 50 on to 100, I surged to 1st place.
Unbelievable. Let's talk about protein, specifically First Form's natural whey protein, Formula One. People ask me all the time what kind of protein powder I use, what kind of protein powder I recommend. Formula One makes many different kinds of protein powders, different flavors. A natural one, you pick it. It mixes amazing. It makes it extremely easy to get your protein in. And really, it's a whey protein isolate. So you're getting the majority of your calories from protein in this shake. Tastes great, super easy to travel with, great breakfast, dinner, maybe even lunch, whatever you need. It's got you covered, and it has all the amino acids necessary, will help improve body composition, muscle mass, all the things that protein does. And by the way, when do you need protein? Well, you need it every day. And that's why I love First Form's protein powder, their Formula One. Go to firstform.com/Dr. Lyon. That's firstform.com/Dr. Lyon. Have you done your blood work? If you haven't, I have a solution for you, and that is one of the sponsors of the show, Inside Tracker. Why is blood work so important? Well, you know, I use Inside Tracker, my friends use Inside Tracker, also my parents use Inside Tracker. Inside Tracker makes getting blood work very easy and user-friendly. They have an amazing interface. You can check it out on your phone. You can check it out on the desktop, which, you know, hopefully you're using a small one. Inside Tracker allows you to look at really important biomarkers like hormones, iron, thyroid, insulin. The list goes on. ApoB. It never stops. And by the way, if you are a professional and you have clients, Inside Tracker also has a pro platform. Amazing. I really feel that Inside Tracker has revolutionized healthcare. And listen, blood work can be expensive, but it doesn't have to be. Inside Tracker is offering my listeners 10% off anything on the store, in the store, anything as it relates to subscriptions, 10% off. Go to insidetracker.com, like inside tracking your body. Use the code Dr. Lyon, and do not wait. If you are due for your blood work, give this a shot. It's extremely valuable. Back to the show. Then after that, what happened? I mean, you now...
In what part?
I mean, you beat him.
Yeah.
You won.
Yeah.
Were you on to the next?
Oh, so...
Was there a moment where you're like, okay, I'm going to go to McDonald's now. You know, this
You know the
running
crazy
thing
thing
is not for me. I'm going to take up, I don't know, underwater basket weaving.
Well, you know what? It was his last race. It was his last World Championships. It was his last 100 meters he was ever going to run. He retired after that race. He came over to me in the warm-up area afterwards, and we traded jerseys because he wanted to trade jerseys. And he signed it to me, and I got signed one for him. Because, you know, throughout our competition, our career, we wasn't like chummy, you know what I mean? Like, we recognized each other, we respected each other. I see each other at events. We would talk and stuff like that. But it never was to the point where it was like, we're buddies. You know what I mean?
I mean, he's your competition. You guys,
He's my
You guys
competition.
are competitors.
Exactly. Too much talking will give you too much. And he knows that, and I knew that, right?
You guys were professionals.
We're professionals. So after that, for him doing that gesture was like, for me, it was amazing. Because it took me all the way back to that point when I saw him break the world record in that bar. And all I wanted to do was line up next to him and race him and see how good I could be next to him. And it took me all the way back to that point. It was pretty cool. Yeah.
It was almost like a full circle moment.
It was. It was a full circle moment for me.
After that, what happened? Did you, continue to race, decide you were...
I went into 18, was an off season. It was like it was not a non-championship year, ran that season. And then 2019, we had
because 2019 you won a gold, a silver. So you did the outdoor championships. 2019 you won a gold medal, silver medal, and then a silver medal in the... I mean, you're really slacking. I just...
Yeah, I know. You know.
Kind of like couch potato.
And here's the crazy thing, though. In 2019, in Doha, which was in October, I had COVID. I ran with COVID, like every symptom possible. Like I had 101 fever, and at that point in time, we didn't know what COVID was. Remember, COVID announced like January or something like that the next year. So when I look back at all the symptoms when they had it, I was like, whoa. I remember, because I thought I had an upper respiratory infection. And I remember having a fever 101, and I was getting ready for the relay. in 2019, and I told myself, my body told me, I said, if you don't get up now to go to the track, get on the
You're
bus and go to the
done.
track, you're not getting up. So I left a whole hour earlier than all my teammates, and I went to the track, and I laid on side of the warm-up track in fetal position with my book bag as a pillow until they came, and then I got up, I warmed up as best I could, and then I gave it all I had, and I ran the relay with COVID, not knowing that I had COVID. And then 2020 came, and
But after that, were you thinking, I mean, did you have a plan to continue, or were you thinking,
like as in retirement,
yeah.
people were
mean,
like,
'cause
"Are you
you'd
gonna
already-
retire
I
now?
mean,
You just won 2017. You should retire."
I mean, you'd now been running for a long time.
So
And
I
again,
thought about it.
The normal span is what, 8 years of running?
Yeah, I thought about it, but
It was
then,
too fun.
But then my agent was like, "You just won. Like, enjoy the spoils that come with winning. Allow people to come up to you and celebrate you, you know?" So I did from 2018, 2019, and then COVID really hit in 2020. So, which was so hard because it was like, we didn't know what was going to happen. Like the world didn't know what was going to happen.
Right.
So we were like, they shut down all parks. They shut down all like tracks, gyms, everything. We found ourselves, and like I said, my coach was a taskmaster. So we didn't know what was going to happen. He was always that kind of person like, they can lift this whole thing tomorrow. So we got to be ready. So we were training.
Oh, wow. So you were prepared to run even through, I mean, you were ready.
Yeah.
Smart.
So we were running on patches of grass around retention ponds. Like that was the crazy part. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But I also feel like at the stage I was at, winning in 17, enjoying it from 18 and 19, then 20 happened. And it just was like, if anything made me feel like depressed, it was that. Like not able to do what I know I could do. I couldn't go outside, couldn't run, couldn't have fun, couldn't enjoy my teammates. It was at times we were in masks where we're trying to run. How you do that, I don't know. You know what I mean? We had to run like 6 feet away from each other. How do you do that? I don't know. You know what I mean? So it just made track not fun for me anymore, you know? So then 2021 came around, and that was my last year. I was like, I'm gonna end on an Olympic year, and made it all the way to the finals of Olympic trials and pulled my hamstring in the semis and tried to make it to the podium, but I couldn't.
But to be fair, you'd already won a whole bunch of medals.
I did.
So, you know,
Yeah.
it's okay. I mean, not.
I didn't have nothing to prove
I mean,
anymore.
you
I didn't.
You didn't.
Yeah.
Were you already thinking about what you were going to do after that? I mean, because you.
After running?
Yeah. I mean, you've spent your entire adult life training to be a competitor.
I didn't know. I had no idea what I was going to do after that. Not a clue. Because every day I focused on being the runner, being the warrior,
That's right.
going in there to fight. So now the fight was done. The war was over. I won. What do I do now? So I had to like take time to like find myself. And that was extremely hard for me because for 20 years of my life, my whole adult life up to that point was given to going out there and fighting, battling, sprinting. What else could I bring to the table?
But that was all, I mean, to be as good as you are, obsession isn't even the right word. I mean, it is, am I right? It's in your.
It was, by that time, it was in my
blood. So
DNA. It was.
It's not even, well, do I think about running today?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it was fully, I mean, to be the best in the world.
Yeah.
That's a whole other level.
It was. And the way I thought about running, you can't take that into normal society.
You're making really good points.
Like
you are making really, I think that's probably why you have so much respect for the operators.
I do.
I mean, you can't take war into real life. It's just some people are built differently.
I would emulate them. Like seriously, I would have a go bag by my door.
Yeah.
With my spikes, everything in it, just in case I need to go to a meet or something like that, just because I could. You know what I mean? It put me in that mind frame.
Yeah.
So once I finished and retired, I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what was for me. You know what I mean? Like, how can I use these same tools and transition into something else.
Did the moment you decided you were going to retire, did you feel like maybe a little bit of depression set in?
Oh yeah.
Set in?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think it was more or less confusion. You know, my wife would be like, I wouldn't know what to do. So I just would, it wasn't like I sat at home and was like lazy or anything like that. I always was busy. Like I would just get in the car and just go because I always was gone. I always was working, moving, going. Then I realized, what am I going to? What am I going for now? So I had to like kind of rewire myself to start thinking differently.
What'd you do? I mean, that's a hard transition, whether it's military or, again, athletics. You hear that from NFL players, other Olympians. But again, I do think that you were in a very unique spot, having been as decorated as you are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how did you lean back on the things that had gotten you through the challenges before? Did it feel familiar? Because there's that limbo state that's uncomfortable and actually essentially the first time you've been in that
It
position.
felt similar. What felt different is that I knew the story was complete. That story was complete. So it had a sense of like, it did. It felt good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
But
really
now
special.
it's like, what are you doing next though? Like that's where I was like, oh, what am I doing next? I don't know.
Yeah,
So that's what it was.
That's really special.
Yeah.
Throughout the training, you were very young when you started, and again, probably eating a lot of junk, but probably as you advanced throughout your career, and to now you're super fit. Were there certain things that you did, certain nutrition strategies, certain refueling? Were there supplements? What was kind of the progression for you?
The progression that really stuck out for me was when I came back into the sport, I was overweight.
What?
Yeah.
Now, are we talking about Justin's idea of overweight, or were you actually overweight?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
Right? So let's just say in 2004, I competed. I was at the start line of the Olympic finals at 183 pounds.
So you're 100 in 2004. This is when you came back.
Yeah, 83 pounds. So I was like 21 years old at that time, right?
And what do you normally race at?
So I would hover around there. That's what I'll hover around. By the time I came back into, let's just say 2012, right? That's when I really started acknowledging that I had to do something about this weight. I was 210 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
What % body fat were you?
I don't know, maybe 15 or something like that.
That is high for a sprinter.
Very high. Very high. They had a nickname for me at some other camps I trained at before I got to my coach in 2012. They called me Fatlin. Because, if I'm wearing street clothes, I look good. You know what I mean? I still was muscular. I just was bigger. I was beefier, bulkier. But once I went out there and ran, you could tell it was taxing on my body. I would fatigue quicker. It was bad. You know what I mean? I remember my coach telling me, we got to drop weight. I was like, well, how much we got to drop? He said, well, how much did you weigh when you won the Olympic gold? I was like, 183 pounds. He said, that's what we need to get to. I was like, but coach, I'm like 27 years old now. Like, he's like, we can get there.
So were you just eating bad? What happened?
Absolutely eating bad. But I was enabling myself eating bad. I'll give you a perfect example.
Yeah.
I would call him at 11 o'clock at night and say, coach, I'm hungry. He'd be like, why you not asleep? I said, I don't know. But this apple pie is here and has apples, so it has to be good, right? He's like, don't eat the apple pie and go to sleep. Those are the things I would do. I would trick myself thinking, I can do this. I can eat this. It has antioxidants in it, don't it?
That's crazy, but you know what you're saying. There's a huge dichotomy with what you're saying because you have a champion mind. No matter how you want to slice it, no pun intended. My mom jokes are good, like the apple pie, slicing everything. You had a champion mindset. And you had already won the gold, 183 pounds. You knew you had to be fit.
I knew.
And you were probably obsessed with winning.
I was.
But you were still willing to eat that apple pie.
So from the 4 years away from the sport, what happens is...
So this was after the ban.
And after the ban.
So that...
Exactly.
That probably took a huge emotional toll.
Oh, a huge emotional toll for one.
People often eat emotions.
Oh, that's me all day. So what happens is, and take in consideration that from college through my first half of my professional career, from to 2006, you're training every day. You're
Right.
burning high levels of calories, right? So now in 2004, it all stops. So as a young athlete, I was just eating whatever I wanted to eat because I was already burning all those calories at a high rate. But then when my 4 years were in that 4 years, I was still eating whatever I wanted to eat, but I wasn't burning those calories the same way I was burning those calories.
Right.
So then now the weight started coming and creeping up on me. So then now I had to figure out how to get it off of me. So then I changed my whole perspective of diet and I turned it into a lifestyle.
Tell me, what'd you do?
I got this book that was called Diet for Your Blood Type.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Peter
so-
Diamano, I think
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. So then I started kind of reading and researching more about what would be better for me. And I started just eating better, like intaking better proteins, smaller amounts of carbs, regulating how I eat throughout the day, intermittent fasting early in the mornings, and then eating a nice sized lunch, drinking more water than snacks between meals. Dinner would be proteins again and smaller carbs, so I wanted to sleep on them, eating at a reasonable hour before it's time for bed. You know, those kind of things, the traditional things. And then on top of that, me starting to work out again, man, it made such a difference in my life. I think, to be honest, me changing the way I ate, my habits, and turning into a lifestyle, that is what gave my career such longevity.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. And then do you still have those dietary habits? So before I ask you that, did you have to count your macros? Did you know how many carbohydrates you needed for refueling? Was it that scientific, or was the science really in the cadence and the start and all the other things versus the individuals that say, okay, well, you eat so that you feel fueled, or was that very defined as well?
It all evolved. So it started off me not even knowing what macros were to the point of like later on in my career as I became an older athlete, more seasoned athlete, understanding the macros,
More
understanding
mature.
exactly more mature. And from that point on, like I felt better. I felt stronger. I fatigued less. Like I felt better when I had a healthier lifestyle than I even did when I was a younger athlete at 21 years old.
Was there anything in particular that you think, was there something like that you do now that you know this is what you do? Maybe not, that you have your breakfast of X, Y, and Z and you put in some magic berry powder and this is the thing that you know. Is there anything like that?
So I always have dehydrated like vegetables, right? Ground up, super greens basically. And I would take that in the morning. I would intermittent fast in the morning. Even through my workouts, I may have like a protein shake or something like that. And
this is when you were sprinting.
this is when I was sprinting. And this is what I do now too. Because my body's just used to it. You know, like, of course I can get up in the morning and be like, I got pancakes, I want them. But
I don't know, it would be hard to sprint on pancakes.
I know,
wouldn't
right? It would be very hard to sprint on pancakes. Yeah, like I said, and remember, it's all going to show. You got to get out there on that track and you got to wear a spandex suit. So everyone's going to see if you're in shape or not. So I had to make sure aesthetically I looked the part, but I also felt the part. And that's what was important to me. Because if you look good, you feel good. If you feel good, you're going to do good, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So you pretty much moved to a more whole foods diet. Would you say that the carbohydrates were lower for you? Where were they when you were training? Again, as a more mature athlete, you probably have to be more attentive to what you are eating.
Carbs are like an addiction for me.
Really, even now?
Yeah, if I have like a piece of bread or like pizza or
It's all downhill.
yeah, like I want more. Like even if I start eating sweets, I'll have another and I'll have another and I'll have another. It just it does something to my brain. It just switches on that I want more of it. So if I stay away from it or if I kind of substitute it for something else, it helps me kind of regulate my body.
That's interesting. And I think that there's evidence to support that in terms of balancing your macronutrients. Do you balance it with protein? Do you balance it with fat? Or you just know not to eat carbs by yourself otherwise? Or carbs by themselves and by yourself?
So more proteins. But now I'm trying to figure out, and maybe you can help me with that.
be my pleasure.
I'm trying to figure out, do I want to go pescatarian? Do I want to go vegan? Do I want to try something
Definitely
different?
are not going vegan.
Okay, cool.
We're not doing that.
We're not going vegan, y'all. So-
Not for you, friend. But what we will do, you know what we will do is I am going to connect you with our head nutritionist, Julia Mitchell, and we'll put together a nutrition plan for you.
That's awesome.
And we would love to do that for you. And what we could do is we'll get your baseline blood work. I know you got some, and then we'll put you on a nutrition plan and follow it up.
Sounds good.
I would love to do that for you.
Okay. Sounds
For
good.
all longevity. I do think, again, adding in a balanced whole food diet will be great. But for your muscle mass and what I think that you want to accomplish, and who knows, you might be competing again.
I know, right?
That we want to maintain healthy skeletal muscle for you.
Let's go.
Did you supplement? I know there's certain supplements that were approved. I think creatine is creatine approved? Are there certain supplements that you loved, or was it very much the simpler the better?
Yeah, I liked the protein shakes, but at that point in time, I think I was doing maybe whey proteins back then.
Yeah.
I liked the pre-workout powders.
Same. I use pre-workout powders
Yeah.
to this day. Do you have a favorite? I use a handful.
That's what it's called?
No, I mean, I use I've been using, so I use First Form makes a great pre-workout.
Where's it called?
First Form.
First Form?
Yep.
Okay, I've heard of them.
I also use 110%.
Okay.
Amazing iced tea. It tastes like, I'll give you some.
Okay.
It's amazing. Iced tea flavor. Those are the two that I've been cycling through right now for pre-workout.
So I use a brand called NutriFit, right?
I've never heard of them.
Yeah, they're a small group company. They're growing. They have some international arm links too. What I love about it is that they help you go in there and kind of formulate what you want into your pre-workout.
That's cool.
So that's what I love about it. It's like, because sometimes it can be, some workouts can get you a little too jittery, and then sometimes
My pre-workouts definitely make me jittery. But, I like them.
But you catch it at the right time, right? Because you get the workout in.
I'm like, I'm going to time this. So my kids are going to school now and just, scoop it in. But
it's the same way. Yeah.
They're amazing. Yeah. That's cool. So they allow you to formulate it. So if you like beta alanine or whatever it is.
Yes, exactly. So I have some that are
that's cool.
stimulants and non-stimulants in them. And then I can go out there, do the workout. If I want to get a workout at night, I could do a non-stimulant and still
You work out at night?
Sometimes. I get in when I can.
That's admirable because it's tough. It's tough to train at night.
It is. When I was competing, I was doing push-ups and sit-ups to put myself to bed because my mind was thinking so much. So I would just get 100 push-ups, 200 sit-ups, and I'd be like, all right, I'm good. Lay down, go to sleep.
So is that what helped you calm your mind?
Yeah. Tax my body would calm my mind.
Isn't that interesting? People will try all these different things. And that's why I asked you about meditation. Meditation is great. But at the end of the day, if you are physically pushing yourself, you cannot do anything else.
Yeah.
You can't be at some point you're so exhausted that you're good.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
That's exactly what it is.
I'm done.
Yeah.
So any other supplements? The whey protein shake, you just kept it simple. No fish oil, anything like that?
Fish oil. Yep. Still taking fish oil now to this day.
Good.
I would go on this site called Metabolics, right? And they're all like natural ingredients pressed into these pills, but the pills were like so big. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you got to take 5 of these pills.
The choking hazards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's been times where I did choke. Like, had to get a pat on my back. But trying to stay natural as possible in them situations, because when you deal with like a WADA or USADA, it's so tough. It's so tough.
Yeah. So what Justin is talking about is these professional organizations for athletes, but it's so. And I have some professional athletes in my practice, and even to put them on progesterone, which is, you show a low progesterone in a woman, or even low testosterone, it's nearly impossible to get that. And there's stigmas if they're on it, even though they need it.
Exactly.
It's very difficult.
It's very hard. And then sometimes you got to request for a TUE, and then within that TUE, they can deny it, and then you still can't use it. Right?
And TUE is
it's a form that says, I would like to use
this to treat. Yes,
to treat me for this reason.
Yes.
it's scary because there's even certain over-the-counter medications that you can't use because they can mask other drugs. So like, let's say like NyQuil, like, which is something you can just get right now.
Yeah.
You can't use that.
NyQuil or
banned,
Dayquil.
right? So
Gotta
that's
be
the
really
crazy.
careful.
Gotta be really, real careful. Claritin D, really careful.
Isn't that unbelievable?
It is. And I think it's because it's scary because they give no recommendations. They just tell you what you can't.
Right. So that when you're stuck and you don't know what to use.
Yeah.
You know, I really like your Twitter. Anyone who's listening, you guys should check out your Twitter. You use your platform to really speak up for people. And when I say people, I saw on Twitter that you had posted about how Olympians should be paid.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to mention that because while there's probably only a handful of Olympians, I think it brings a point up that's really important. And the point is, from my perspective, taking young individuals, and I don't want to say exploiting them. We love the Olympics, but there's a lot of money that comes in, and when individuals are young, they don't necessarily know.
Yeah.
So I'd love for you to chat a little bit about that.
Well, let's take it back a little bit further. So the Olympics came around and they kind of like coexisted with AAU, amateur, athletics.
Yeah.
So they all took that same ideology back then, which was, race and compete for the glory because you can't get paid. Right. So the legacy will live on. Now we're in an era where that doesn't really exist anymore. You're gonna get the prestige of winning a gold medal, but these kids got to pay their bills. They got to pay They got to pay not their doctors, their coaches, their agents.
Totally.
They got to do all these things, and they're not making a dime from the Olympic organization.
And the Olympic organizations make a lot of money.
They make a lot of money.
And
Yeah. So on top of that, now they announced that track and field is one of the first Olympic sports that's going to get paid. Right now, mind you, track and field is probably more of the most successful, glamorous Olympic sports. You have so many other Olympic sports.
Totally.
And they want to pay them $50,000 for a gold medal. In my mind, I'm thinking all the hard work, the blood, sweat, and tears these young athletes put in.
Sacrifice of everything.
Sacrifice.
How are they living?
Exactly. If they don't have a decent sponsorship that's backing them and they make this team and they win a gold medal, they can't even afford a home. They say, you know what? They can't even afford a home, a car. What is that going to do for them? You at least had to put in a way to that moment in time that they worked so hard for. It should help change their life in a trajectory where it can say, okay, here you are. You won the Olympic gold. You sacrificed so much for this moment in time. We're going to celebrate by giving you an allotment of money that would help get you a car, help get you a home, help make a quality life better.
But why shouldn't individuals be paid if they're training for the Olympics or going to that? Why, I understand what the tradition is they're training for the glory, but couldn't it be a paid position?
It should be a paid position.
Something like meaningful.
So what happens is, especially in track and field, the Olympic organization relies on, let's say, Nikes, the Adidas, the Reeboks, the Brooks, the Hokas, all them companies that are shoe companies to contract these athletes. So what happens is within their contract, let's just say you're with Nike. Nike will pay you an allotment of money if you go out and win the Olympic gold medal, right? So that's what the Olympics is banking on, that you already have a contract that's going to get you this far, so why do we have to pay you, right? But I feel like it's such a sham. These athletes sacrifice so much. They've taken away from their families, their own kids. They put their body to the test for this moment to happen, and they can show nothing for it. And I mean, they can't even take their Olympic gold medal and go take it somewhere and swap it out for money. The percentage of gold that's even in the Olympic gold medal now.
I didn't know that.
It's so small and minute now.
I want a refund.
Exactly,
really?
right?
Oh, man, I had no idea.
Yeah. Before, back in the day, that's what it is.
I thought it was gold.
Back in the day, it was gold.
Yeah.
But now they have taken it down so far that it doesn't. It's the money you get for that gold medal is because of the prestige of that gold medal. Yeah. That's really it. That's it.
But it's worth it, isn't it?
It's so worth it. It's so worth it. It is.
Spoken like a true competitor.
It is.
What's next for you?
Like you said, just I think I want to activate my humanitarian side more, inspire young athletes. I've been doing a podcast called Ready, Set, Go that kind of caters towards the track and field world to get my voice out there, tell the stories of young athletes also, and doing speaking engagements, as you know.
Which you are phenomenal.
I appreciate that.
Which you are phenomenal at.
Thank
natural. I asked him, so I've seen Justin speak before, and also you're a really good storyteller.
Thank you.
And I asked you if you had been trained.
No.
And you weren't professionally trained, but you are extraordinary.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, we are having a summit, or Forever Strong Summit. I would love to have you speak there. It's going to be here in Houston.
Let's do it.
Yeah, Ben will be there.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I would love to have it.
Okay.
Love to have you there. So you're speaking. What else is on the horizon for Justin Gatlin?
Getting acclimated to the city of Houston.
Yep. Happy to have you.
Working on some investments.
Cool.
So yeah, and just living life right now. Those things I'm really trying to focus on, and not trying to become a jack of all trades, but a king. You know what I'm saying? In certain realms that I'm working on right now.
Do you think it's easy to get dialed in when you pick something?
Yes. Yeah, it does. I just have to pick the right thing.
Yeah. But listen, do you believe that there's that you get a sense of where the direction is that you should be going?
Yes.
Like if it should be writing, if it should be speaking, do you feel drawn to any of those things?
Yeah. Working with people like you and Ben, you give me clarity to understand the environment that I could potentially be really good in. You know, that helps me always. That's exactly how track and field was for me. When someone laid out track and field and said, this is track and field, X, Y, and Z, I can look at it and say, okay, cool. So if I do this, this, and this will make me successful? Yes, do that. If I do this and this, it'll make me unsuccessful? Yes. So now I know what my threshold is. Now I know what my borders are. Now I can be able to work within that realm. And then I will give my all to it. That's how I operate.
And it's extraordinary.
Yeah.
It's extraordinary. I'm really excited to see what's to come for you and all the things that you're doing with the speaking. And also you're very active on Instagram. And I think the podcast is really great.
Thank you.
Even though I'm not necessarily in track and field, but you guys have a very good dynamic, and there's a lot of good just information and insight.
I try to help it to relate to an audience who's not really into the track and field space too. So we did just this new episode with a guy named Matthew Hudson Smith, who's from Great Britain, and he was a child phenom, right? He ran very fast. 44 seconds is amazingly fast for any 400-meter runner, but he did it at the age of like 18 years old, right? Young. And as any young athlete who doesn't have a mentor or people around him, like, he crashed and burned, right? Because he had so much success and he thought he was untouchable. And then he got to a point where he thought about taking his life. Like, he really tried to take his life. You know, he said, if I had a gun around, that probably would have been my choice, but I took pills. And the moment he did that, he actually said, it wasn't because I didn't like who I was or I was sad. He said, because I was lonely. And when you win, you're lonely at the top. And when you're losing, you're lonely at the bottom. So he said, all the people around him, family, girlfriends, he said, none of them could understand what he was going through. He made him feel alone. And then when he had everything that was ripped away from him, shoe sponsorships, deals, his coach that he was with, now he has control of his destiny. And now he's back on pace. He just won the silver medal at the last World Championships. Now he's gunning for the gold. So like stories like that can transcend track and field.
Yeah.
Those are stories that teach you about how to be able to stay committed and diligent in life and help you become strong. And that's what I try to put out there for these young athletes. Like, because our sport is such an individual sport and we don't talk about certain things in our sport, and we kind of like make it taboo about how much this person's getting paid or how much, how many races this person's going for. You know what I mean? If those stories were put out there more, these athletes would learn that you're not alone. There's so many other people that are going through the same thing you're going through, good or bad. You're not alone.
I love that. Justin Gatlin, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. You are a phenomenal human, and I cannot wait for the world to get more of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.